They didn't disown me, but our relationships were never quite the same. Charles attempted to reach out to me multiple times. I never responded. He turned out to be a complete snake. I was the one betrayed by someone who professed love for me, and it cost me everything precious to me. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please subscribe to the channel for new stories. That annoying phone won't stop ringing. It's been buzzing non-stop all day long. I picked up, saying my usual, "Hey, it's Sam Brown. Sam darling, can you leave work early and kick off our weekend?" Her voice, smooth like honey, never failed to entice me. "What about Angela? I let her go home early, it's just us here, come on over." I powered down the computer, set my phone to voicemail, and locked up the office. I hurried to my car, knowing the traffic would be light, even on a Friday afternoon. I'd reach her place in about 30 minutes. I first encountered Christy when she entered our music class during our junior year of high school. With only one empty seat left, fate placed her, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty standing at 170 centimeters tall, right next to me. We exchanged greetings and names before Miss Kramer launched into her lecture on the early 20th century jazz evolution. That was the moment I fell for Christy Holman, etched vividly in my memory. Christy and I were an item throughout our freshman year. Despite knowing she occasionally dated other guys, I tolerated it because, firstly, I had no choice, and secondly, she was usually available for at least one night every weekend. Spring arrived, marking a fantastic year for me with three main highlights: joining the varsity tennis team, having a shot at state, and receiving my SAT scores, which placed me in the 99th percentile. With everything falling into place, my college admission prospects seemed promising. There was just one more thing to make this year perfect: tackling my personal CE on Saturday. I invited Christy to watch Shampoo with me because people kept saying she resembled a younger, blonde Lee Grant. The movie had some steamy scenes, and after it ended, we shared a passionate kiss in my car. She never let me go beyond French kissing and the occasional touch of her breasts through her blouse, and tonight was no different. Pausing our kiss, I finally popped the question. "Christy, will you go to prom with me?" "Sam, I'm sorry, but Jake Heron already asked me," and I said yes, she told me. Jake was our school's star quarterback, and I didn't even realize they were together. My ego took a nosedive into despair. The next half hour was spent trying to hold myself together as I drove her home and walked Christy to her parents' door. She gave me a kiss on the lips before disappearing into the house, and then the porch light switched off. Things didn't get any better the next day at Sunday dinner. My mom, with her usual cheer, asked if Christy was excited about going to prom. My little brother Jeff, my dad, and mom all watched me, their smiles hiding their awareness. I was lucky to have such a supportive family. I grew up in a secure bubble. I can't tell you how thrilled she was when she agreed to go to prom, probably because she said yes to him. To him? Who's that, to him? Christy's going to prom with Jake Harmon. Let's just say my parents did everything to help me through this. As I said, I grew up in a loving family. I tried avoiding Christy during the summer between junior and senior high, but once school started, it got harder. Christy acted like everything was normal. One Friday afternoon, she cornered me, asking to go to a soccer game. I agreed since I was already going. Jeff was playing. What a twist. Here I am, sitting beside Christy, and she's cheering for Jake, while I cheer whenever Jeff gets the ball. Confusing, right? After the game, I escorted Christy to Jake as he left the locker room. Jake was a decent guy. It wasn't his fault he was dating the girl I liked. When he came out, excited about the win, he praised Jeff's performance. He shook my hand, thanking me for looking out for his girl. I tried to minimize my time with Christy. With a big school, it was easy to limit our interactions to a few brief conversations a week. Besides, Christy was occupied with Jake. That's why what happened in February felt so bizarre. It was the day after my 18th birthday, and I was at home studying. There was a knock on the door, and to my surprise, Christy was standing there. "Hey Sam, can I come in?" I ushered her inside. "Are your parents home?" No. Jeff?" "Nope. What's up?" "I brought you a birthday present." Christy took my hand and led me downstairs to the study. Happy birthday, Sam. She gave me a sincere kiss. Our tongues intertwined, her hand on the back of my neck drawing me closer. Her hands moved down to my pants, undoing my belt buckle and unzipping my zipper. Her hand slipped into my underpants. I'd always wondered, Sam. It always seemed big. It feels good. Christy glanced back at me with a smile. Thank you, Sam. Happy birthday. I was speechless. I had lost my virginity and shared my first intimate moment with a woman. The girl of my dreams had given me what I desired most. It didn't dawn on me until later that day how Christy, who had only turned 18 a month ago, had gained so much knowledge about sex. If I had hoped for a rekindling of Christy and Sam, I was mistaken. Christy continued to date Jake. We still conversed occasionally, and sometimes, when we passed in the hallway and she was holding Jake's hand, she would give me a secret smile, exchanging something only we understood without words. We graduated from high school. Christy went to Arizona State University, and I went to Northwestern. She transitioned from being a high school quarterback to a college basketball forward, and later became a swimmer aiming for the Olympics. We saw each other in the summer and on any vacations when Christy was home. That's where our relationship reached its crazy status that lasted for years. Despite Christy's other relationships in high school. Here at home, we became lovers. It started the summer after freshman year. Christy and I were at the same party. She came up to me and talked to me like we were best friends. I drove her home, and we made love in her parents' mother-in-law's spare apartment above the garage. I shared intimate moments with Christy, and she seemed satisfied with our connection. Throughout my freshman year at Northwestern University, I attempted to garner interest from a few female students. Why, Sam? Have you honed your skills since the last encounter? You possess both the tools and the talent. For the next 3 years of college, we continued our pattern, being intimate in Chicago and exploring other relationships while at our respective schools. I genuinely believed we had a shot after graduation. Christy spoke of relocating to Chicago and seeking jobs there. Consequently, I declined a promising job offer from an undisclosed company, which I'm too ashamed to name, based in Palo Alto. They were pioneering work in personal computers. Imagine my astonishment when Christy phoned me to announce her decision to pursue graduate studies at UCLA. During Christy's time at the University of Southern California, she developed a taste for luxury, mingling with the affluent crowd of Southern California. It exposed her to experiences like spending a day on someone's yacht or cruising down Rodeo Drive in a Bentley with her friends. After 2 years at UCLA, Christy returned home. I was still single, and we resumed dating and being intimate. I pondered once more if she could be the one. Was this what I had been waiting for? My family had dismissed the idea, and I felt a pang of resentment. Was I not up to her standards? Was that their implication? Of course not, but I failed to grasp their perspective. They believed Christy wasn't suitable for me. So, Christy and I dated for the next 5 months, until I was ready to propose and give her an engagement ring for Christmas. That was until one evening after a delightful Beethoven concert at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Sir George's performance was exceptional, and I was euphoric. The Seventh Symphony reverberated in my mind, with Christy by my side, holding my hand. Sam, we need to talk. This is our last date. I'm getting married in June. He proposed to me last weekend, and I said yes. He agreed that I could go to the symphony with you tonight. Just so you know. Who's that? His name is Kent Thomas. He's a man I met at work. He owns one of the companies we supply materials to. And he knows that you and I dated and slept together while you were dating him. Yes, but he knows it's over between us, and he says it doesn't matter as long as I promise to be faithful from now on. Wow, an understanding guy. Yeah, he's great, Christy didn't mention, and very rich, and now it's finally over. At least I thought it was. I dreamed about Christy almost every night for the first year after our last breakup. She was married to Kent Thomas, and I tried to forget that. My friends and family did everything they could to help me get over it. When kindness didn't work, they teased me. When teasing didn't work, they tried tough love. I was starting to come around until one day she walked into my office. Hey Sam, just like it hadn't been over a year since she'd said goodbye to me. Hey Christ, what brings you here? Kent's going to Argentina for a week of fly fishing on some river somewhere. I'm staying in town and was wondering if you want some company. What are you talking about? You're married, yeah, but I'm not dead yet. And Kent isn't you. When it comes to sex, I hesitated. Are you seeing someone, Sam? No, but that's not the point. I'm not going to stand here and beg, Sam. If you want, here's my address, come by after 6. Angela, our maid, will be gone. You can stop by the garage, here's the remote. Close the door behind you, I'll be waiting. God help me, I went to her house that night and stayed until 4 o'clock in the morning. The sex was incredible. Christy was insatiable. It went on for 2 years. Kent would go out of town, and Christy would call, and I would come running. All the while, I waited for Chris to come to her senses. How could she stay with him when she obviously loved me more? I know I couldn't compete with his money, heck, I wasn't even at the same level, but I was earning very well. I could afford vacations, cars, and luxury items, maybe not the month-long European vacations or the Mercedes-Benz 450 convertibles she drove, or the 4-carat diamonds she wore, but did she really need those things when she could have me? Over those 2 years, my contact with my family dwindled. My parents, my brother, and his spouse were increasingly distant and disapproving, particularly Rachel, my brother's wife, who held strong views on infidelity. I was effectively shunned from their gatherings, yet Rachel never explicitly prevented my brother Jeff from associating with me. Perhaps she hoped he'd sway my actions. After a 2-year hiatus, I glanced up from my desk to find him standing before me. Instinctively, I scanned his hands for a weapon, but they were empty, devoid of any threat. Though we hadn't met, I recognized him from the photos adorning their bedroom hallway, depicting him and Christy in various exotic locales. Slightly shorter than me but impeccably groomed, he embodied a refined elegance that irked me. His attire likely surpassed the value of my entire wardrobe, his demeanor exuding privilege and poise. State your business, I retorted, attempting to convey a sense of intimidation, emboldened by his unarmed state. May I take a seat? He inquired calmly. Proceed, Mr. Brown. I've come to inquire about the price of ending your relationship with my wife. You underestimate the cost, Mr. Thomas, I assure you. I have sufficient funds, Mr. Thomas. I've loved Christy for 12 years. I should be her husband, not you. You're only with her because you can afford to give her what she deserves. Do you honestly think a woman as stunning as Christy would wed a man 2 decades older if he wasn't wealthy? I'm well aware Christy married me for my money, but that doesn't change my love for her or the vows we've exchanged. She professes her love for me, and I believe her. It may seem absurd to claim she loves me while I'm confronted by a man she's with every time I'm away. Fact is, Mr. Brown, Christy chose me, not you. His arrogance fueled my anger, and I erupted. Yes, you married her, but I'm the one she's with. My outburst seemed to strike Kent Thomas deeply. His expression turned somber, and his lips tensed. Finally, he spoke. Mr. Brown, I adore my wife. She's flawed, and yes, you have a relationship, but in every other aspect, Christy is an incredible spouse. Her only fault is her attachment to you, but it's not love, or else she would have left me for you. When I confronted her, I offered her freedom and $1 million check. She refused. Christy wouldn't refuse $1 million. It'd give us everything we need to be together. I'm skeptical, Mr. Thomas. Enough. Please leave my office now. Kent Thomas stood and departed without a word. Christy didn't reach out for days, understandable if her husband was around. I called my brother and suggested we catch the Blackhawks game. Everything was going fine until I mentioned Kent Thomas's visit. Jeff, you won't believe it, the guy practically begged me to stop seeing Christy. Can you imagine someone stooping that low? My brother, taken aback, just stared. What, are you seriously going to talk about another man's concerns over Christy? My brother, who spent years hoping she'd be his, while she was my girlfriend and lover. She'd dated athletes in high school and married another man. I'm grateful Rachel has a different view of commitment. If she were like your girlfriend, she wouldn't be my wife. From that moment, everything spiraled downward. I likely made a disrespectful comment about Rachel, prompting Jeff to angrily leave the bar. Christy remained silent for months, traveling in Europe before returning to Palm Beach. One Saturday, she called last minute, "Can you come over tonight?" I unexpectedly have the evening free, but our Palm Beach plans fell through. It took 7 months since Kent Thomas's visit for me to reunite with Christy. Knowing her home was off limits, we rendezvoused at the Drake while she shopped. It cost a hefty sum, but it was worth it. Our connection remained unchanged, the intimacy electrifying. For 2 hours, we lost ourselves in each other, attempting to defy the reality she lived in. As she finished dressing and left the room, I couldn't tear my eyes away. When I glanced up from my desk, there he stood. A tall man with a pale complexion, holding a shiny object. I didn't recognize him, but I knew what he held, an ominous stainless steel revolver. He aimed it at my forehead. Though I'd never fired a gun, I understood its mechanism. As he pulled the trigger, there was a distinct click, and fear overtook me. When he spoke, there was a hint of an Irish accent, or so it seemed. "You should have taken the money when you had the chance." I was terrified, more scared than I'd ever been. "Is there any way to fix this?" "Too late now. The money you were supposed to get? It's in my pocket." My stomach churned at his words. Then, I let out a horrendous fart, filling my small office with an awful stench. "You're pathetic." He continued, unfazed. "This is your final warning. If you write, speak, or see her again, I'll return and shoot you dead. And if you dare involve the cops, my partner will make sure you suffer before ending it." With that, he left. I complied with his demands. I never spoke to Christy again, except to inform her, when she called, that I was involved with someone else and wouldn't see her anymore. Despite her attempts to converse, I insisted it was best we didn't communicate. Christy seemed hurt, unaware of the threats from her husband. 3 months later, while dining alone at a small Greek restaurant, they entered together. It seemed odd for a millionaire and his trophy wife to visit such a place. They sat nearby, close enough to overhear. When Christy spotted me, she excused herself and approached. "Sam, what a surprise. How've you been?" I observed Kent from the corner of my eye as Christy responded, his smile evident. "I'm good, Christy. How about you?" "Better than ever. Still with that lady you mentioned, my fictitious, stay-alive partner." I fibbed. "Yeah, we're thinking of tying the knot." "That's great, Sam. Will you invite your old friend to the wedding?" "No, I don't think so," Christy whispered, mindful of Kent nearby. "Must you be so cold, Sam?" Kent's smile faded into a scowl. "Go back to your husband and leave me alone," Christy returned to Kent. I left $20 on the table and exited without a glance. Walking out, it struck me, it wasn't a coincidence. I was being trailed, and he knew my whereabouts. Kent Thomas brought Christy there to flaunt his victory. 2 days later, the same tall Irishman visited my office. All he said was, "Keep it up." That was all. My brother and I reconciled, and I apologized to Rachel for my behavior. She didn't deserve my disrespect, she was Jeff's devoted wife. They persuaded me to seek professional help. I spent 6 months in therapy, trying to move past 12 years of yearning for a woman who never wanted anything more than my support. It took me those 6 months to realize, what makes someone like Christy attractive, Doc? What drives her to treat her partner that way? Do you believe Christy truly loves you? She claims she does, has been saying it since high school. She was my first love. We continued until her husband began threatening me. I can't say for certain, Christy, but based on what you've shared, she fits the profile of a classic narcissist. Everything revolves around her desires and what she believes she deserves. She craves both wealth and great sex. Her husband fulfills one aspect, while you fulfill another. No one person can satisfy all her needs unless they're exceptionally wealthy and exceptionally attractive, and those individuals are rare. Even if her husband is wealthy and skilled in bed, does he prioritize her emotional needs over their lifestyle? You see, Sam, those with narcissistic tendencies always seek more, regardless of gender. While desires may differ, there are men who share similar struggles. Think about the high-powered businessmen you've encountered. They face similar challenges, just with different desires. And Kent Thomas, Christy's husband, how does he afford to support a wife who betrayed him? How does he tolerate it? The doctor concealed his surprise well. After a moment's thought, he replied, "I'd like you to answer that question yourself, Samuel. How have you endured this for so long, waiting for someone who clearly disrespects you? You've clung to an illusion. At least Mr. Thomas shares a home and intimacy with the woman he loves. You've settled for much less, yet you keep returning. His words deeply impacted me. Initially, I was furious at his blunt delivery. I even considered canceling our next session, but as we discussed it over the following weeks, his words echoed what my family and friends had long been trying to convey. Everything began to make sense. 6 months later, I found the strength to resist Christy's advances, even without the Irishman's threats. I was almost free from her grasp. It took another 2 months before I placed an ad in the Men Seeking Women section of the Reader newspaper, opting for online dating. While I met a few women through that avenue, it was through mutual friends that I met my future wife. Fred and Diane Turner introduced me to Stacy. She was, and still is, a remarkable woman, both inside and out. I consider myself incredibly fortunate that she chose to be with me. We've been married for 30 years now, blessed with 2 wonderful children, and I can honestly say that Christy no longer haunts my dreams. As I debated tossing the high school reunion invitation, the phone rang. It was Larry Parker, an old friend from school. Sam Brown, it's been ages. I've rallied some guys from the tennis team, and they're eager for you to join us at the reunion. Many are disappointed you've missed the last 10 years. After Larry and I caught up on life, I agreed to attend. It'd be nice to reconnect with the guys. Stacy picked out a new dress and stylish shoes for the occasion. She looked elegant, not overly flashy, and I felt proud to have such a stunning woman by my side as we entered the room. High school memories never seem to fade. We were enjoying ourselves at a table filled with tennis team members and their spouses when she walked in. From a distance, Christy appeared unchanged from the last time I saw her 30 years ago in that Greek restaurant. Her figure seemed more voluptuous, her jewelry more extravagant than ever, accompanied by a man who looked no older than 40. Most of the men, and even some of the wives at our table, glanced at her and then back at me, perhaps expecting a reaction. Stacy noticed this, following their gaze. "This must be Christy," she remarked. Now our tablemates turned their attention to Stacy, awaiting her response. They seemed disappointed when she remained composed. I can understand the appeal. "She's a beautiful woman, Sam. Could you fetch me another glass of wine, please?" Stacy redirected her attention to the conversation she was having before the interruption, chatting with Larry's wife about their grandchildren's talents. I grinned and fetched her wine, returning to our table where we sat for the next half hour. Various classmates came and went, greeting us. Then, I noticed Christy standing nearby. "Hi, Sam." "Hi, Christy. You look great, thanks," she chuckled. "I don't think you've met my wife. This is Stacy." "Stacy, meet Christy. We've crossed paths before." Stacy played along. "Oh, she's adorable. Nice to meet you, Christy. Can't believe you two used to date. You barely look older than our daughter." Christy seemed puzzled, rendered speechless. Expecting sarcasm, she received a compliment instead. With Christy closer now, it became evident she'd undergone more than just breast augmentation. The tension around her face was noticeable. Why would anyone undergo such changes? You know. Some Hollywood types end up looking strange, even eerie. "Sam, care to dance with me?" "If your wife doesn't mind you dancing with an ex." Stacy remained composed. "Mind?" "Not at all," she assured with a wink. "Christy," I asked. "What about your beau?" "He's fine, as long as the bar stays stocked." We danced. "Where's Kent?" "Kent passed away a decade ago. He must have left you quite the inheritance. You seem to be thriving." "He left me everything. His widow's living the good life. I travel everywhere, always in style." Christy glanced at her partner when he spoke. She caught me watching her. "Well, I had to find someone to fill your shoes when you vanished. I hope you waited for his 18th birthday, just like you waited for mine." "Christy, come on." "Sam, are you jealous?" "I don't think so, Christy. It's time for me to move on, find my own path, and a wife." "That's a shame, Sam. If you had stayed, all that money could have been ours to enjoy." "I found something better than your money, Christy. Look at that woman over there." Stacy breathed life into me. "That's nonsense, Sam." "Christy, little did I know, the best day of my life was when a thug hired by your husband put a gun to my head and warned me never to see you again." Christy stared at me, her surgically enhanced eyes wide. "I never knew, it didn't matter. I married Stacy. I have 2 wonderful children and 3 grandchildren. Here, look." I pulled back, about to reach for my wallet to show our family photo. Just then, Stacy stepped in. "Excuse me, it's time for a dance with my husband." Pressing against me, she led us away from Christy, now alone on the dance floor. "You're a lucky man." "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's not working for you now." I understood Stacy's subtle message as she pressed against me. I chuckled at her playful threat. "Darling, let's see how you fare without my affection for a week." I didn't promise a week without her. "You'd spend a week worshipping my body, with no relief for yourself." "Damn, I love that woman." She continued to tease. "What do you say? Fancy buying me a set of breasts like your ex-girlfriend's? You wouldn't dare mess with these beauties." "I adore them as they are." I leaned in, nudging my chest against hers, just to tease. "I love them, even if they're not as perky." It was our little inside joke. How could they sag? "They're not big enough for that." "Exactly, they're all mine, and they're just right. We're perfect together, babe. You know how much I adore you." Stacy returned my kiss. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please subscribe to the channel for new stories.